Resident Evil 8 Village takes place 3 years after Resident Evil 7, and we once more find ourselves in control of Ethan Winters, who this time must rescue his infant daughter, who's been abducted and taken to a rural village in Eastern Europe. This village is ruled over by 4 mysterious lords. Why a village of this size needs 4 lords with giant castles, I don't know. I think someone's paying a little bit too much on their taxes, but hey, that's Resident Evil for you, and that's by the by. These 4 lords themselves are governed by a mysterious and godlike character known as Mother Miranda, who is both feared and revered as a deity. Throughout the course of this game, Ethan fights all sorts of monstrosities such as werewolves and vampires and all sorts of other goodies, and uncovers more secrets about the village, the lords, Mother Miranda, and even himself and his daughter along the way. Hello everybody and welcome to Great Leveler Gaming. I am the Great Leveler and today we're back with another discussion video as we talk about the highs and lows of Resident Evil 8 Village. We're joined once more by Grizzly Games, who we did a discussion video on Resident Evil 3. So if you like this video, then I suggest you check that one out as well. And of course, this is going to be a spoiler-filled discussion. So if you haven't played the game or haven't finished it yet, here's your spoiler warning, so bear that in mind. And just for clarification's sake, because I like to be always open and upfront with you guys, the footage you're going to be seeing was captured all in New Game Plus on the PlayStation 5, so it looks fancy as... no swearing, sorry. Fancy as heck. But you're going to also be seeing weapons in areas that wouldn't normally be unlocked at. You're also going to be seeing infinite ammo. That's why, so don't think that there's some cheating going off. It's there mainly for reference. Anyway, I hope you guys do enjoy this discussion video. Let's crack on.
Where the hell am I? And okay, so first off, let's just talk about our overall thoughts on the game as a whole. I personally really enjoyed it. What about yourself?
Yeah, I thought it was pretty damn good.
Okay, so that's our overall thoughts. No, I really enjoyed this. I didn't expect to actually enjoy it. For me, Resident Evil 7 was such a departure that it made it feel really fresh. That I didn't think they'd be able to replicate that feeling. Now I knew what to expect. So for me, this was a really pleasant surprise.
Yeah, it's funny because I never actually played Resident Evil 7. I've
What?
still not played it. I played just about every other main entry in the series except for 7.
I
I'm
am
not sure why I played it.
gobsmacked. Well,
It's something I do want to play, it's just never really got round to doing it.
oh right, wow.
After playing Village, I did kind of think, oh, I should really go back and play 7 now, but then, you know, like always, just, I'd rather do this at the moment, and then just forgot about it, and then it got put on the back burner.
Oh dear. I mean, did you watch at least the recap of 7 before you played Village?
I watched the recap, and I know a lot of what happens in 7, so I wasn't completely in the dark. But I'm sure I'll get round to it. I'll put it on the top of my list of things to do in the next few weeks.
The only one I've not played at all is 6 because it just didn't interest me. I just didn't like what they did with the story. It just lost. And again, we know that it lost what it made it Resident Evil because they rebooted it in a fresh new packaging with Resident Evil 7. So yeah, so that's our overall thoughts. We didn't really talk much about Village, but that's our overall thoughts on the game. Let's start off the video then with positives. Let's talk about the things that we really enjoyed to start.
Yeah, I'd say I think most people agree with it. One of the best moments is obviously House. Is it Beneviento?
Beneviento, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I just called it House Danny DeVito because I could not pronounce any of the names in this game.
Yeah. I think that's probably one of the best parts, especially since there's no actual action, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
It's all just puzzles, and I thought it was just really well set up, and the feel of it and the atmosphere. And
I've been waiting for so long. I'd make a much better daughter than Rose. Please, won't you stay with me forever?
it was really a great part of the game, I think. And then there's the giant fetus thing at the end, which was, unfortunately, I got spoiled for it because I'd already seen what it looks like. But
Yeah.
it was also the kind of thing where I think I know what's coming here. And when I saw it, and then I think it's obviously very surreal and horrifying.
Yeah.
I thought it was great. I just remember hiding under the bed from it. I think you hid in the cupboard. I didn't know you could actually hide in that cupboard.
You see, it's ironic because I mentioned in my playthrough of it that that was spoiled for me just before it happened. And the video that was spoiled was the voice actor that played Heisenberg was streaming it. Obviously, him playing Heisenberg as an actor never experienced any other part of the game until he got the final copy. So his reactions to that were genuine. But the thumbnail spoilt it for me that there was going to be a giant fetus. But as I said in the video, I just presumed, I wonder if this is going to be like Rose put back together and she's going to come back. So that was a massive surprise when it happened. And I actually watched his video after I finished the game and saw him hiding under the bed. I'm like, why didn't I think of that? I never even saw that you could hide under the bed, which again, I have to agree with you that section was really fun. One of my biggest criticisms, we'll get to that in a bit, was with this game was how much they ramped up the action. And that section alone was no action. It wasn't even survival horror, that was just horror gaming. I know if you guys follow my channel, I love games like Outlast. Well, I say I love games like Outlast. I've only really played Outlast 2, but I like these kind of horror games, Evil Inside. What was the other one that I played? Infliction. I like those kind of horror games where you're kind of helpless, because that's what the true horror is. It's this facing off against something that you can't fight back against. And I think House Benevento, Dollhouse, really captured that essence of horror, and the sound design, the fact that it was a giant mutant baby that wanted to eat you alive was just awesome. There were so many good elements in that section. So I agree, that's definitely one of my favourite parts of the game. Any other bits in particular stood out for you?
Castle Domitresque, because I don't know, it felt kind of like I know you said you didn't finish Resident Evil 4, but it kind of felt like a homage to the castle in that game in many ways. Just the way that it looked inside.
To be fair, this whole game feels like a homage to lots of different games and lots of different films. So I think absolutely. From what I remember and what I got, as far as I got in that game, I can completely relate with that. So
yeah, it's definitely a great section. But it's also it felt to me like the longest of the 4 main areas as well, not counting the village itself. The village itself was great as well. I liked how every time you finish one of the main areas, you go back to the village and you open up a little bit more of it. But yeah, I'd say that Castle Domitresque, House Benevento, whatever, and the village itself were the highlights of the different areas that you visit.
Yeah, Domitresque or Dimitresque, however you want to pronounce it. I think I agree with that. One of the things I liked was from the promotional material, you knew of the character of Heisenberg, and you knew of House Dimitrescu and all the Lady Dimitrescu and her 3 daughters.
Yeah.
And beyond that, and obviously the fact that there's werewolves, nothing was really shown. I did not expect another 3 households. That actually took me by surprise. So I really commend the marketing team for keeping those kind of moments secret. But that's, I think, why House Dimitrescu was such a large section, because that's what they wanted to use for a lot of the promotional material. So by showing us more, making it a bigger section, they can show more without spoiling the majority of the game.
Yeah, it felt actually, once you finish the castle and you've killed Lady Dimitrescu, it felt like after, I thought she was going to be around for a lot longer than this. And I was kind of like, a bit, not disappointed, but just a bit like, oh, wish she was still here, kind of thing. Because I thought she was... It seems Resident Evil games now always want this stalker type of enemy, where, they just patrol around a big map and, randomly find you, or they'll just, teleport near you if they've not seen you for a while. And I think that she was definitely she spiced things up a bit because she wasn't a monster. Well, she was a monster, but she wasn't monstrous in appearance besides her size. And
Yeah.
I think as well the fact that all the other stalker type enemies have all been, either men or clearly, based off of they were all, big giant, blokes, weren't they? in
Yeah,
some ways.
basically, yeah.
Whereas Dimitrescu, wasn't. Although she was massive, she was also a woman, which I thought changed it up a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Although I think she was probably the easiest to avoid out of all of them.
Yeah, I never felt threatened by her. I mean, Mr. X was terrifying, not because he was this massive bloke, but because he was solid and he was always in the way. Like, it felt like there was a good section of Resident Evil 2 where, I'm trying to get, like, in the library, and I'm trying to move the bookcases along, and he's on my arse. I'm like, shit, I'm gonna have to evade. Yeah, where Dimitrescu felt like she's just kind of just casually strolling around, like, oh, I'm going to put an end to you, but when I get round to it. I mean, literally, I just felt like I could walk around her a lot. Basically, I never really felt trapped by her, so I don't feel like she really had much of a threat. But
no, she wasn't. She didn't have any threat whatsoever, really.
No.
It was very easy to avoid her, but I don't know. I think her design and everything was great.
Oh, yeah.
Just in terms of the actual pure gameplay side of it, she's probably the weakest of Mr. X, Nemesis.
Yeah, but I agree. The character design, the fact that she wasn't some kind of mindless monster, was a refreshing change. I just wish that they kind of forced you into situations a little bit more, like they did with Mr. X and like they did with Nemesis, where they tried it. When you get your hand cut off. Bear in mind, guys, this is a spoiler-filled review in case you haven't already figured that out. But the bit where you get your hand cut off in the basement, she's like the easiest thing to avoid. You just like walk around the corner, and as soon as she comes around the corner, that's it. You just carry on your loop, and you're at the door, open it up, and you've escaped her. Easy as that. There's no trying to outsmart her, trying to use different tactics. It's just kind of outpace her a little bit. You'll be fine. But again, this is supposed to be positives, and I have to agree. I enjoyed House Dimitrescu. I thought that whole section was great. So you like the House Dimitrescu and the Dollmaker's house and the village itself. For me, I really liked the fact that the game was a little bit more open. I've gone back to do cinematic shots, so there's the bit after you kill Moreau, and there's a gate with a crank, which I completely walked past, and you can go up there and get the Magnum, which I've since found. But that adds more to the lore. There's, finding out about some of the studies he's done, and find out all these different locations. And I completely missed that, and it didn't affect the story whatsoever. There's also the bit where, in fact, not long after that, where Heisenberg's calling you out, telling you to go to his stronghold, and there's a stairs saying good luck, and there's these hanging bodies. But if you go to the left, there's a whole different section. Now, I haven't explored that yet, but there's a brand new section there. There's so many little places, little offshoots, where you can go and explore more of the story, and I don't feel like Resident Evil 7 had that. It feels like Resident Evil 7, every location had a purpose. If it was just a puzzle that you had to unlock to get further, or to find a key, or find a key part, or it was part of the story, everything was there for a reason. There wasn't many areas for you to wander off and just find like a little nook and cranny. It was just
optional areas.
Yeah. So I one of my things I like in this game, and what I'm looking forward to playing it again for, is to explore all these little secret areas. Heisenberg's factory, I felt like I ran around circles blindly in that place, but I still feel like there's places I didn't explore because I was rushing so much to get it finished. So one of the things that I like about Resident Evil Village was the openness and the fact that you could explore. So, but of course, where there's good, there's also bad. So what for you were your bad or low points in the game? They don't have to be terrible, just things that you just didn't like.
I'd probably say the whole Moreau section with the water.
Yeah.
I don't what it is about water sections in video games. It just always just turns me off.
Yeah.
It's I think it's maybe it's just like a subconscious fear from playing like Sonic the Hedgehog when I was like 5 years old.
That's not where I thought that sentence was going to go.
And you move really slowly and things like, and you get stuck and then you just drown and die. But it's any sort of water section in video games, and there's a lot of people that also don't like water areas in games.
Yeah.
It's nothing to do with the water itself necessarily.
Yeah.
It's just whenever there's a water section in video games, I always think like, oh, this is the down point of it, I suppose.
Yeah. So you obviously never played Echo the Dolphin growing up. So
No, I know what it is, but I've never played it.
Yeah. So the Moreau section, it wasn't anything so much to do with the water. I think what it was is that I felt very limited. We've just been talking about one of my favourite things was the fact that you could explore and go lots of different places, and then this water section, you felt very limited. But to be fair, the whole water section felt like just one giant puzzle. But I really enjoyed it. Again, first time playing it, I really enjoyed it. Now, when I come to play it maybe a second time properly, then yes, maybe I'll be less inclined to enjoy it. But I enjoyed it. It could have been more frustrating, I think, because my initial thought was he's picking up on vibrations. So if I walk too fast, he's going to hear me and come for me, and it wasn't that. It was literally just make sure that you're not there when he's coming, which I think's better, because I think if it was one of them where you have to go slow and sneak, that really would have pissed me off. Have you ever played the Batman Arkham Asylum game?
No.
There's a section in the sewers where Killer Croc's down there, and if you go too fast, you're walking on these like floating planks, the vibrations will alert Croc to where you are, so you have to kind of go slow through this whole section. And it's a fun section, but it's also a tedious section, and if they'd have done that for such a huge section of this game, I would have really disliked it. I think the only thing I disliked about the Moreau section on the water was that when you fell in, that was it. There was no like last chance. You know, Ethan just kind of fell in the water and just kind of gave up. It's like, just come on, there's a giant fish. Swim, at least try and swim for the surface. Just some kind of animation to make me think that you want to try and survive. But you just kind of like slowly floats and thinks, oh well, I'm fucked. So, but I can't say that Moreau was a negative for me, but I understand why you find it a negative. For me, as a negative part of the game, Heisenberg's factory in particular. But what it was about Heisenberg's factory was the general complaint I had with most of the game, which was it's so combat heavy, and I didn't like that. I knew it was going to be going in. That was going to be one of my criticisms before I even started the game, because I knew from just the trailers where you've seen Ethan picking up like the sniper rifle and stuff like that, it's gone from Resident Evil 7 where you've just got a few weapons and limited ammo and really struggle to survive, to basically just carrying an arsenal on your back. And Heisenberg's factory really illustrated it with the tank enemies and just the sheer number. So for me, Heisenberg's factory really highlighted it, but overall throughout most of the game, just the sheer number of enemies and how many bullets they took to put down. And so yeah, combat for me was great. I thought the actual combat itself worked really well. The weapons were great. The feel to everything, the actual fighting was great, but there's just too much of it. I mean, I don't mind it for like the opening sequence, just to get you panicked, but it just... In fact, who was I talking to? I think I was talking to a guy at work, the guy who lent me the game actually, and he actually mentioned this about how it would be really cool to have you kind of being a bit of a badass at the start, having this section with the village and having quite a few weapons and killing lichens and killing all these little things, and then losing the weapons, and being forced to struggle to survive. And the way that I kind of, because he said it and I latched onto that idea instantly, I thought of it kind of like the film Predator, where Arnold Schwarzenegger and his group are shown to be just the ultimate badasses, ripping through this guerrilla camp like, no sweat, I ain't got time to bleed, just wiping the floor with absolutely everybody, and then this one creature
completely outmatched.
Yeah, by one little thing that they just it just makes them look like chumps. And it's like you've seen how badass and how capable these people are, and now they're terrified. And that's what the charm of Predator was. That would have been cool here if, like, yeah, here's a machine gun, here's a rocket launcher, doesn't do anything against them. It's like, oh shit, you can use it to slow them down, but they are going to keep coming. You cannot defeat them. Now it's terrifying again. Lady Dimitrescu and the daughters and stuff. Once you found their weakness, and they were always next to their weakness, it just kind of lost that. They lost that thing. But if you had to fight them multiple times, let's say they could pop up in multiple locations. I know there were a few times, but not very often, because you'd always end up fighting them next to a boss fight, where you were supposed to, where they had the weakness there.
There's conveniently always a window to break.
Exactly. It would have been better if you had to try and trick them or funnel them into these locations rather than you just being there. Fair enough for the first one, you have to find out what the weakness is, but every other one was so simple.
Yeah.
And they didn't learn. They didn't try to sabotage what you were trying to do or anything. They just kind of ignored the fact that there's a lever that's exposing their weakness. They didn't try and disable it or protect it. They did nothing. And again, so they weren't scary, because literally I just stood next to the lever, kept shooting her until the thing closed and opened it again. It wasn't, so that's for me was the problem. It was just too gun heavy, and the enemies just weren't really that much of a threat. If you had a bit of ammo, you were fine. I mean, Christ, the fight with Heisenberg was so much fun, but so stupid.
Oh, it was ridiculously over the top.
I really liked Heisenberg. I at first I wasn't sure, but as it went on, I really got to like his over the topness.
I could never take him seriously.
Oh God, no!
Because every single time I heard the name, I just thought of Breaking Bad.
Yeah, so did I.
I could never take him seriously.
I know, but I feel with him, with his power of manipulating metal and stuff, that when he transformed, in fact, with the exception of Moreau, and obviously the Dollmaker didn't transform, but with Dimitrescu and Heisenberg, I actually feel that they lost something by transforming.
Yeah, definitely.
I get it with Dimitrescu. That was a nice surprise. I thought it was such a cool reveal with the slowly seeing like the wings and the tail appearing and then just smashing through. I'm like, all right, that's cool. And the whole design of the monster was pretty awesome. But again, I lost that Dimitrescu bit. But Heisenberg, I really felt like there was nothing scary about what he became.
No, it was just a. I'm not sure how to describe it.
I described it in the video that will be out by the time this is done, but obviously you won't have seen it yet. It felt like a mech battle.
Yeah. It felt like Robot Wars on steroids.
Yes. Yes.
Just one giant robot, and then you're in your little tank thing driving around.
Yeah,
it's just the most ridiculous Resident Evil boss fight, except for maybe one of them in 6. But it was just so over the top. And I mean, Resident Evil is always campy and over the top at times. But it's just, I thought it was hilarious the fact that you're just driving around this little tank, and I just imagine like a low-flying plane flying over, and just seeing this like giant, like what Heisenberg becomes, like his massive amalgamation of metal, and then just this little tank driving around shooting at it.
Yeah.
Just as this plane just flies past, and just somebody looks out the window and think, oh, what's going on down there?
Yeah, if you look at the left-hand side of the window, you'll see, oh my fucking God! It was fun. I had so much fun, but it wasn't in any way, shape or form scary. I mean, even his intro, dropping down from the sky, felt totally out of place. Just didn't feel like I was playing the same game that I started playing.
Yeah, it felt completely different.
I want to talk about the characters in general. I know we've already touched on it a little bit, but I want to talk about Ethan as a protagonist. I personally really enjoyed him in Resident Evil 7, but by the time this game come around, I don't hate him, but I really don't like him that much. I know the whole point of Ethan is he's supposed to be like a face protagonist, so you can project yourself onto him, but
pretty bland.
It wasn't even that he was bland. It was just that he was a cocky little shit, and I don't think it was warranted. I mean, I said it enough in my Let's Play, but and I know, obviously, I finished the game now and know that he was the mold from the last game or something, so he's not technically alive. But we know we can die as a character, because I died plenty of times. But the way that he doesn't know this, and the things that he survives and just shrugs it off and then quips, I'm like, who the fuck are you? She's literally just thrown you through a floor, down 3 stories, and you're quipping back, bring it on? No, fucking get the hell out of there. She's clearly going to beat you some more.
Rest while you can, because I will hunt you, and I will break you!
Go ahead, do your worst.
I just, as a character, he just got on my nerves towards the end. Not even towards the end, about halfway through, and I liked him well enough. Don't get me wrong, I enjoyed playing as him. I don't think I'd prefer somebody else, but I thought the whole charm of being a first-person shooter is that they could do a different protagonist each time. So I didn't really care that we were back with Ethan and Mia. Obviously, they were paramount to the story. I get that, but I feel like the way the story went, they could have come up with anything really, and brought in new characters. So yeah, I weren't a big fan of Ethan. What about yourself?
I wasn't. Give or take. A lot of the Resident Evil characters I can give or take. I think what Resident Evil lacks in actual human characters, they make up for it massively in monsters. That's always the, focus for me, how good the monsters are in the game.
Well, yeah, I agree with that, but I also think that they've got some pretty iconic characters with Jill Valentine, Chris.
You've got iconic characters, definitely.
So, but yeah, the monsters are definitely a stronger selling point, but I just weren't too keen on Ethan. Mia is just a pain. I really don't get her appeal at all. No, again, the character.
My favourite character as well, for definite.
Was it Dimitrescu again?
No, she's probably number 2.
Oh, okay.
Number 1 would have to be Duke.
I've been waiting for you, Mr. Winters.
Oh, of course, the Duke. I completely forgot about the Duke. Yes, you know what? I actually really warmed to him. I thought he was a really good character.
Yeah, I thought it was very interesting. His just whole concept.
Yeah, Duke was a surprise actually, because I'd seen him in the trailers, and I just thought he was going to get annoying. Oh, here's this guy who magically appears wherever you need him to be, and that's exactly what he did. Basically, the Duke does in this game what you usually do in other games, which is unlock fast travel. But I actually really warmed to him. I really liked his character, as limited as what his character actually did, as in terms of actually doing anything, but his dialogue was great. His interaction with Ethan was really good. Yeah, I think he was a really good character actually. Yeah, I didn't actually think of the Duke.
I think because the merchant in Resident Evil 4, everyone said, raves about him, and I don't really understand it, to be honest. But the Duke has an actual character and personality.
Yeah.
And his appearance is obviously it's meant to be grotesque, but it's also quite unique in a way. I like the fact that he is just this guy, this random merchant that just sits in the back of his little wagon, waddling his little feet, and just sells you things, and then I always felt like, is the Duke actually real, or is like Ethan sort of imagining him? Yeah. But it was just, I think he was the best character in the game, especially just, it was quite unique, I think.
Definitely. There was actually originally in the original designs he was supposed to be like the head of a 5th household, but that kind of got scrapped. But there's kind of like hints at it still, which I really like, because you can kind of think maybe he's had a little bit of what Lady Dimitrescu's had, where his growth, instead of going tall, has just gone outwards, and stuff like that. We've talked on the good, the bad, the characters. What about the story as a whole? Did you enjoy the journey? at least, even with the negatives and positives we've talked about?
Yeah, I guess so.
Such a... They're not going to put that in the box. This game, is it good? I guess so. Grizzly Bear Games.
Yes, it's alright, I suppose. Yeah, I think the story itself. I always think Resident Evil games' story is never ever the strong point. But I think in terms of the actual like pacing of, this is where you start, this is where you go, this is what you do, this is why you're doing something.
Yeah.
That was all fine. And I thought it built up, like I was saying earlier, it starts off with, horror elements, and then at the end it becomes quite actiony, especially right at the end when you play as Chris. And essentially just give him like a maximum ammo for all weapons and just have fun. That's what the end of the game essentially is.
Yeah. One of the things I always liked about Resident Evil, and it's going to sound ridiculous, but is the plausibility of it. Resident Evil 1 is, we're trying to create this virus to do whatever it was supposed to do, and it's gone wrong, and people have mutated into flesh-eating zombies. It's like, hopefully wouldn't ever happen, but it's plausible. I can buy that. And they're trying to make super weapons, so here's some more mutated things, and here's Resident Evil 2 expanding on that same idea, and here's some other experiments. It's like, I get the point of everything they're doing. And then when they got to Resident Evil 7 with the mold, it's like, okay, I like what they've done. I like they've changed the direction into this new kind of thing. It's a little silly, but I like it a little bit. And then this one, it just felt like any excuse to create lichens. It's like, why are they turning to werewolves? You try and explain it, saying that some people reacted different, but you just wanted a werewolf in your game.
Yeah, pretty much.
And here's vampires, and it's just like, it doesn't feel like it's where, like I said, the zombies and the tyrant and all them things kind of like felt like natural progressions of the research. This felt like, here's some horror monsters that we kind of want to do a homage to. How can we put them in a game? Oh, here we go. I almost feel like they wanted to make just a cool horror game, but they didn't think they'd get the budget or the returns on the thing, so they just thought, well, let's make it another Resident Evil game, and tied it in with that. Personally, that's how it feels. I'm not saying that's how it went, it's just how it feels.
I think they were just following the rule of cool. So long as it's cool, it don't really matter. I
just thought it was so ridiculous. The drastic transformations that some things went through, and no's really changed. She's injecting the same people, and it just did everything. Okay, this one's turned this person into a giant vampire. Oh, these have turned into a flock of flies. This is a giant fish man. And we can also use this exact same thing to create an army of metal soldiers. What? It's the same bloody thing. That's like... it's kind of like X-Men.
Just a magic one that just does whatever she wants.
Exactly. It's like the X-Men comics, when they came out, Stan Lee said, I just can't be bothered to come up with different ideas for how all these characters are getting superpowers, so it's mutation. And that was his explanation for all these random powers. It feels like the same thing. Mold and Cowdo, there we go. You've all transformed, however, because the experimentation, it's like, that just doesn't make any sense. But again, I enjoyed the characters, I enjoyed the variety that's one thing I really did enjoy, the variety of enemies in this one.
Yeah.
Resident Evil 7, by the end of it, I was bored. The mold had all looked the same. Yes, there was some that had bigger arms or scuttled on the ground, but they were just the same over and over again. They just weren't scary by the end of it. This, at least, all the enemies looked different. They had different attributes, different ways of fighting it. So I really did appreciate that. But yeah, it was just ridiculous.
Yeah, there was a lot of variety in enemies.
Yeah.
And it never felt like you were fighting, although there were a lot of lichens, obviously.
Yeah.
They were just a cannon fodder enemy.
Yeah.
But it felt like there was just enough variety, and there were some enemies that you only ever saw once or twice. It was the giant werewolf, the one, the proper werewolf on
Ulias. Them ones. Yeah.
I think you fight it just before the water section.
Yeah.
And if you go and find the Magnum, I think you can fight one there as well.
Yeah.
I think that's the only time in the game you actually find those enemies.
Yeah, they were pretty cool. Very weird though, because again, was that a person once? Everything else kind of looked a little bit human. Did they just start experimenting with the dogs now?
I don't know. It was just like a very typical werewolf. I've imagined it was a person once.
Yeah. So and again, one of the things I always enjoy is when you look at the lore and it explains how these things are created. And it felt like the lore with this one was just tacked on at the end. It's like you get into Miranda's little lab, and it's just like, oh yeah, here's all my experiments. It's like, oh, I kind of wanted to discover that as I was going and find out more. You just kind of like tacked it on at the end because I should know by now. But other than that, I did enjoy the story. As ridiculous as it was, I enjoyed the story. Where do we think the series is going to go?
I don't know, because there was that like end credits scene, wasn't there?
Yeah, with Rose growing up.
So I remember was the man in the distance, and I've seen videos where like people zoom in and use the like in-game camera to move all the way over there, and it is Ethan.
Yeah.
But that's also probably just a placeholder model, really.
Yeah.
We just needed a man in the distance, and then just thought let's use the Ethan model for it.
Yeah. See, I didn't really pick up on that. Again, I've seen the thumbnail to a video, and when I've been watching my edit back, because it's kind of weird, because the car kind of drove off, and then the video just came to stop.
Yeah.
And the car doesn't seem to go anywhere. And when I'm watching it back after seeing that, I could see a person, but it didn't look like anything that really caught my eye. I wouldn't have thought anything of it if I hadn't seen this other YouTube thing. So I think Ethan's dead. Personally, I don't think it's Ethan.
Yeah.
I mean, it even says the father's story's done. I know that doesn't mean he's dead, but we've already said it doesn't need to be Ethan anymore. It didn't need to be Ethan in this game, except for they tried to tie it all in. So I hope they don't bring Ethan back. But the question is, will the next game then, will we be playing as Rose, or will Rose be the threat?
I've interpreted it as we'd be playing as Rose.
Same, but part of me wonders, because she's clearly, again, this is what was so convoluted about the story. The Mega My seat is retaining their memories, and she's bringing Rose back. Then how does she put the? I just couldn't follow. It was just so convoluted. It's like, so it has a bit of Evelyn gone into her. Has everyone's consciousness gone into her, or was it literally just Rose that's come back? It was so convoluted. But it does make me feel like someone's going to try and manipulate to bring maybe a side out of her. So maybe that's going to be the next game, is that someone's trying to capture Rose to make like a clone of her or something like that, because I think that's the only thing they haven't done yet is cloning in this game.
Capcom are watching this right now, taking notes.
They better be. Oh, I can't see where the story's going to go. I mean, obviously that's part of the charm, is that it will come as a nice surprise, but I just think they've drained Resident Evil for everything it's got. I can't see what more they can do with it as a series.
Ghosts.
Yeah, we've mutated the body, so now that when it dies, the spirit lives on.
It just gives some sort of hallucinogenic properties, and you see ghosts now.
Yeah.
I mean, there were plenty of like hallucinations in the game, like when you see Mia, like you see her in the basement of House Beneviento, like moving past the window and things like that.
Oh, that was such a good sequence. The only problem with that, if you rush to look at the window, she doesn't actually move her legs.
No, I've seen that as well.
Yeah, and it looks really janky. And again, the whole point is supposed to look like she's floating, but the way that I think they put up the legs at like a certain angle, that it just looks stupid. Really funny though. But again, that was all that one section. This is the only section we keep really talking about, is with the exception of Domitreski, is the Dollmaker house. So I personally think, I know they won't, but I really don't want them to continue the series. If they're going to continue it one more, just be done with it, alright? It's done. It's like a fucking zombie. It keeps getting back up, even though you keep killing the series, it keeps coming back. But that's
like they've really, come back into their own at least.
Oh, they have.
After Resident Evil 6, when they essentially just dropped a massive bollock and people really weren't happy with the way the series was going, they have really turned it around. I'll give them credit for that.
Absolutely, but again, don't try and continue this series because it's just getting more and more convoluted. I mean, I would love to play this kind of game, first person, with these kind of graphics inside Raccoon City as just a normal survivor, not someone tied into the bigger thing. Just something, you know, instead of trying to add always onto the lore, here's something new, just it's just too much. It's just too silly.
That's why I suppose in a way I always say that the story's never the selling point for me.
True.
Because I just tend to not ignore it, but just take it as it is and think, okay, this is the reason why then. Yeah. And then focus more on the actual gameplay of it. And normally story's always a big thing for me, but I think with Resident Evil I just accept it for what it is.
Yeah, I think maybe that's why I've enjoyed this one more than I thought, because I didn't think I'd enjoy it like I did. But again, it was just that last kind of few sections where things were getting revealed and I'm just like, nah, we're not buying this. I still enjoyed it, but I'm just like, it just feels really stupid. I don't know what's going off. Keep saying words that I can't pronounce. Megamycete. What the fuck's a Megamycete? What the fuck's a cow do? They never really explain any of this. It just, they were there. We discovered it. What? How? How's nobody else discovered these things? How has nobody else become immortal? It just, yeah, ridiculous. Yeah, but I enjoyed it. I really did. All complaints aside, I really enjoyed the game. I think it was a lot better than it had any right to be. And yeah, I look forward to seeing what they do next, but I do hope that they'll reel it in a little bit.
Yeah.
Again, I think that's what I liked about Resident Evil 7, is it was so confined. It felt more genuine because it was just this one family that's got transformed and you're having to try and survive their madness, where this one was a whole village and castles full of people. It was just too big scale. I think that's what I think. If I was to narrow down what I'm talking about, I think it went too big. And I think the joy of being first person is you can get these nice tight confined quarters and pinned in against these monstrosities or these people, and I think that was what was lost in this one. But again, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I just think it was a bit silly as well.
Oh yeah, it's always silly though, isn't it?
Yeah. So yeah, I can't think of anything else to say. Have you got anything to add?
Oh yeah, quick question. Did you find the giant guy with the axe?
The giant guy with the axe? I think this is another one of those hidden locations, wasn't it? Because again, I think I've seen a thumbnail with this hidden boss. I never came across someone with an axe.
Yeah, he's a hidden boss.
Is this near the bit to Heisenberg by any chance?
No, he's on the way to House Beneviento.
Yeah.
You don't fight it before, yet fight it quite later on.
Yeah.
Just before you go into Heisenberg's factory, I think. But
yeah.
There's a secret boss there, and I think I used all of my ammo on it before I finally killed it. I was literally on the verge of having to use my knife on it. But yeah, you're just like this. I can't even remember how you like summon him, but I was just wondering if you found him as well.
Nope, I definitely did not find him. So for those guys of you watching at home, there is no footage of this playing over the top because I probably still haven't found him. So apologies for that. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this little discussion video. Overall, we both really enjoyed the game, and I want to know what you guys think down below in the comments. So do let me know, and I'll see you all on the next episode, coming soon.
I will take what is due. My desires will be fulfilled.